Well, hello there, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2 Super Mini Mail Call. Let's get right into it. What we have here is a package from Ken in Hayden, Indiana. Okay, so I know what this is because I was chatting with Ken via email. From my understanding, this is a new or a non-broken keyboard cover for the TRS-80 Model II. Now, this one is definitely in worn out shape. Of course, TRS-80s, like starting with the Model 1 all the way up to, I think, the Model 3, were painted this silver color, and underneath, it was sort of like this gray plastic. So on things like the keyboard, where you put your wrists as you were doing a lot of typing, which clearly this thing was well used, you got the paint wearing off, which doesn't look super great, but unfortunately that's just par for the course with these. Now, if we look here, this is the actual keyboard from the Model 2 series that I had on the main channel. And this thing is very similar in that it's quite worn out here. Now, I cleaned this up as best I could. I put I put 303, the Restorer stuff to make the black plastic look a lot more shiny than it was like when it was dull or like on this one. So overall, this looks pretty good. But the biggest problem with this is this right here. This is the keyboard connection that connects from the computer. And I guess what had happened with the machine I had is that this was yanked. It was probably connected to the computer itself and someone grabbed the keyboard without unplugging this and it broke this right off. And all these plastic pieces here are missing and they weren't even inside this keyboard at all. So Ken sent me a keyboard here that, look, is not broken. So I'm not sure if this top cover is in better shape than this one. I mean, maybe the paint's a little bit less worn, but it's kind of scratched up and doesn't look super good either. I mean, the badge here, which is discolored, is kind of discolored on both of them. So either way, the top I may not do anything to change, but the bottom clearly is a lot better on this than on that one. So let me just swap those out. So what I had done as a stopgap measure, this is on the original keyboard, is I put this blue painter's tape here just to kind of hold the connector in place, and it did the trick. I mean, it's, you know, been like this for a little while. I tried to glue this case back together as much as possible. There was a big crack here, also through here, and a bunch of these standoffs were broken, but a little acetone actually did the trick because this bottom cover, if I twist it here, it's not broken anymore. You can kind of see there's one of the cracks that was in the case there, and I think it was all cracked along here as well. Now the paint is discolored because the acetone, unfortunately, it kind of melts the plastic and it goes right through the paint. So it causes discoloration, but compared to how this was all cracked and broken, it's pretty good. Acetone is a really good way to melt and fix ABS plastic. In fact, I'm not totally sure, but I think it was at least this standoff was broken as well. And this holds the keyboard up. So you really do need that in place. And that's in good shape as well. So yeah, not too bad, the bottom cover here. Now there doesn't seem to be any screws holding this new keyboard case together, but it's got this packing tape on here. And I just hate packing tape. You got to peel it off relatively soon after you've stuck it on because it has a tendency to leave glue and residue all over the place. So I'm glad I'm taking this off now. Alrighty, there we go. So we'll take the good working keyboard out. I can transfer this cable over. The connector is keyed, so you can't really mess that up. That just goes like so, and this just sits right on here. There are little standoffs on all four corners. Actually, it's interesting because there's a little peg that stands up on this side, and they're broken on both of them. They are there on this right side, but on the left side, they're not there. It won't be the end of the world, I don't think. It should still hold the keyboard. Those little pegs that are on those posts there will interface or whatever. They'll stick into these little holes on the top cover. This was the top cover I got from the other machine. And these are actually kind of broken, but that should still not cause too much of an issue. So let's tuck that wire under there. And we'll pop this down like so. And yeah, look, I mean, once I have the screws in there, keyboard's good. It's not moving around at all. There it is. Keyboard is back together. I gave it a little bit of a clean on the bottom side with some Windex and microfiber cloth, and the thing is working great. It even has all four of the rubber feet on the bottom. I think the other two The other keyboard was missing a couple of them, so that's pretty cool. Those are not sticky and are in good shape. So the keyboard is nice and solid and doesn't wobble or anything. It feels good. In a previous video, I completely replaced all the foam and foil pads in this using foam and foil pads from TechSelect, and that completely made this keyboard work perfectly. I'll put a link in the description below to that video if you haven't seen it. It's part of the TRS-80 Model II series of videos that I put out. Now, if you watch the TRS-80 Model II series, you may remember that I never actually finished that computer. I mean, it's finished in that it's all back together and it's working, like it turns on and it tries to boot. But after working for a little while perfectly, it sort of stopped working and it no longer boots properly. And it's not just a disk problem, it has weird hardware problems. But thanks to some of my viewers, they sent in some accessories to help me troubleshoot that machine. So I want to try to get back to that. Now the keyboard is looking good as well. Problem is, I have a little bit of an injury on my right shoulder. I have a frozen shoulder right now, and that's preventing me from lifting really heavy things. I don't want to injure it worse. So moving the Model 2 around is very difficult right now. So it's sidelined at the moment while I try to get better. And if you read up on about frozen shoulder, it can take a very long time to heal. So this isn't something I can get over in a month or two and get back to that machine. So it's unfortunate that I've been sort of struggling with this, with the hand, and then now, of course, the shoulder. So it's just par for the course of getting old, I guess. So in the meantime, I'm going to try to work on light computers that are easy to move and won't throw out my shoulder, so to speak, to move around. Anyhow, with regard to this keyboard, I want to give a huge thank you to Ken for sending in that new keyboard case, well, new, old keyboard case, so that this thing is no longer broken. I never really thought that I'd have this thing fixed, so that's pretty awesome. Thank you very much. I'm just going to have a sip of my adult beverage in between packages here. Oh, yeah, that's pretty tasty. All right, so the next package to open on mail call, we have this one. It has no name on it. It comes from Jarrow in the UK. Jarrow is a place. All right, we have a note. It says, "Hey Adrian, I hope you're well and sometimes leave your basement to breathe the sweet, sweet fresh air." Yes, it's springtime here in Portland and it is so beautiful outside. So I do try to get out at least once a day, ride my bike around, go for a walk, just to try to get a little bit of exercise. This gift of integrated circuits, which I hope you will find useful, was extracted from my storage bin at work. Looking at the packages, I think that these were all new old stock, which I've been keeping for years. I realize now that I will never use them, and I have no inclination to try to sell them on eBay, so I've decided to dump them onto you, with a happy face. I am sorry that I have not included some delicious British sweet treats, but I suspect you already have got too many of such items for your own good. You can have too much of a good thing. Yes, that is true. I'm still working my way through so much candy that has been sent into the mail call last year. So I'm actually glad that I'm not getting nearly as much this year, just because I don't want the stuff to go to waste. And if I eat it all myself, then I'm gonna gain way too much weight than is healthy for me. Anyway, I don't expect to see too much of this parcel on your mail call videos, as unboxing this small brick rectangle for 30 minutes is not everyone or anyone's cup of tea, but I'm sure some of them will be useful at some time in the future. All right, so there's a line here that must be in local dialect. Gen Kanimara, if you've got not to talk about, had your gob. And Lawrence, who sent this to me, says, the sign-off greeting is in my native Geordie dialect. It roughly means, go carefully, friend. If you've got nothing to say, say nothing. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Lawrence. All right, well, let's take a look at this. I'm gonna reposition the camera. Okay, I'm gonna try to breeze through this. Look at this, lots of stuff here. I'm gonna try to breeze through, because I don't wanna, like he said, take 30 minutes to kind of go through every single chip. But I am still super curious, as I'm sure some of my viewers are, to see exactly what Lawrence sent in. Okay, that is it. I guess the customs officers were like, what are all these tinfoil packages here? These could be like narcotics or something horrible, right? Okay, the first package here looks like some Intel processors. And indeed it is. We have a little assortment of chips here, 36S or DX25, 46SX266. AMD made those. I think this is an Intel cache controller. 8086-2 and an 8086-2. So those, of course, are a little bit unusual. 16-bit processors that you cannot use inside 8088 machines. Next thing says DRAM. Gotta say, I love the wrapping in aluminum foil here. And indeed, we have an assortment of 4164s. So this is the same stuff that's used in the Commodore 64. 8 of these chips is 64 kilobytes. Next thing says HM6116, that's static RAM. I think these are 2 kilobytes each, so HM6116 LP-2. So static RAMs, are these used on like the Commodore 1541 disk drives, for instance? Also, I think a VIC-20 RAM expansion card I have uses these as well. So yeah, these are pretty handy to have, so very nice. And we have more processors here, a Z80 with the support ICs. All right, so there are some Z80s here. These 4 things are processors here. I honestly don't know what these ICs are here. It's like analog devices. 49C402 and 39C10BC. Here we have a TMS 9929. Is this a video chip, maybe like from an MSX or a TI-99? Yes, it is. So the TMS 9918, it's the NTSC version here in the US. I'm pretty sure the 29 is the version that's used in PAL countries. So that's what this is. This would come out of a TI-99 or an MSX. And I think the difference is the US version is composite video only, and this has like a component type video, something like that. We have a Yamaha 2149. I'm pretty sure that's the sound chip, maybe out of the Atari ST. All right, no, actually it's a clone of the AY3-8910. So this is used in MSX computers. Almost certainly that came out of the same machine as this video chip here. And then next up is some kind of AMD 2910. Not sure what that chip is, but here's an Intel 8255. So what is this, like an interrupt controller or the timer chip or the DMA controller? Something like that for a PC. Down here is an Intel 8251. So this is like the timer chip, I think that's used on like XTs and stuff. And then we have 2 Z80 CTC chips here. So I think this is like a clock timer kind of thing used on a lot of Z80 machines. All right, next up, it looks like more DRAM. Yes, sirree, we have 4164s and we have 41 256s. So 8 chips for 256 kilobytes. Next up, we have some more SRAM, but 32K by 8 SRAM. I was about to say, you would have seen me use this SRAM on my SWTPC 6800 machine to add more RAM to it, but I actually used the narrow package stuff. I don't know if this is exactly the same 2K by 8 SRAM I used, but if it is, this is just a different package. And here's one that just says MISC. Let's see what this is. Looks like this is SRAM here. We have 62256, that's definitely SRAM. 6264, that's SRAM. 6264, 6264, those are SRAMs as well. And then right here are some 6551s. What is that? That's obviously, 6502 line of chips, but I'm wondering if this is like a baud rate generator. And yep, it is. According to Wikipedia here, it is the Asynchronous Communication Interface Adapter, the ACIA. So this is the MOS version. Well, I mean, MOS I think came out with it. This is the MOS version of the Motorola 6851, I think is the part number. The original version of this that MOS cloned, the Motorola one, was used on my SWTPC, the 6800 machine, I think, for the serial port. So that's cool. This is the version that MOS made. It doesn't say up here that it's a clone, but look down here. The Motorola 6850, it's a similar chip to the MOS technology 6551. The 6850 is often used for MIDI. I don't know the chronology of what came out first, but it feels like this one was maybe a little bit of a clone of the Motorola one. Next up, we have a 68000 and a 68008, which I haven't actually seen personally. I'm pretty sure that's like the 8-bit version of the 68000. So of course, these large ICs here are the good old 68000, 8 megahertz package there, 8 megahertz, 8 megahertz, 8, and an 8. So yeah, used in the Amiga, used in the Macintosh, very handy. In fact, I had to buy some of these recently from AliExpress, and they were kind of like dodgy rebadged things because I had battery damage on like some Amigas that killed these chips. Well, like damaged some of the pins and stuff, and there was heavy corrosion. So I got some off AliExpress and they luckily did work, but you just never know what you're gonna get. Clearly, these are all original chips, which is awesome. And then here's a 68008. I don't know if there's an easier way to say that. And is this one as well? Oh no, this is a 68000 in a PLCC. Is this called PLCC or PGA, pin grid array package? So that's the same as these. This is an 8-bit chip. So this is very much like the 8088 compared to the 8086. So the 8086 is actually a 16-bit processor. Although it doesn't have all of the pins exposed, it multiplexes the address and data bus lines, which is why the 68000 has more pins. But the 8088 is the 8-bit version, which has an 8-bit data bus, and that's what this is from my understanding as well. So it's just a way to have machines use the 68,000 architecture, but not have as many pins on the motherboard. So it's just like cheaper to make and whatever. I don't know how popular this was. I don't know like what machines actually use that, but it's kind of cool to have one if I ever have a machine that has one and it's gone bad. And PGA 6800 or 68,000, I don't think I've ever had a machine with one of those. I am noticing that this foam is all starting to kind of like fall apart a little bit because it's old. So I'm gonna have to take all these chips out of this foam before the foam starts to corrode the pins, because that absolutely happens as this ages. And what will start to happen is you try to remove a chip. I'm trying to take this processor out and it's fine, but it starts to kind of like stick to the pins and cause corrosion. And it's not a good thing. All right, looks like we have some 32K EPROMs. Yep, and these are 27C 256s, which are very handy, used in all sorts of things. All right, next up, another miscellaneous package. Kind of like that, exciting, you never know what you're gonna get. All right, this top IC is an NEC 765, that's a floppy drive controller chip. Then we have an 8237A, not quite sure what that one is. And this one, it says CLA 2310. I have no idea. And then we have a genuine MOS 6545. So this is a CRT controller that is very much a copy of the 6845 that was sort of ubiquitous on everything in the 80s. I think like the original Pets used these, for instance, and I don't quite know if you can just swap in a 6845 for the 6545. So that's sweet to have a spare. Here's an NEC D720, no idea what that is. This is an 8332, I don't know what that is, and so is this, unless that's the date code, and it's an 8217 and an 8219. Yeah, that's probably gotta be what those are. This is an 8253, and this is a 6810 perhaps, which I swear is something that's used on the Southwest Technical Products 6800. I think it's like either the ROM chip or maybe it's an SRAM chip, like 128 bytes of SRAM. And we just have some more Intel 8200 series stuff. This is like probably chipset related stuff for the 8088 or the 8086. All right, looks like we have some more DRAM. Yep, just more 4164s, perfect for fixing Commodore 64s. All right, here's some 74LS logic and some 4000 logic. Let's see what we got. All right, obviously these large ICs are EPROMs, so these are 128s, these are 64s. Here's a 2532. Here's an 8748, so this is a microcontroller that Intel made back in the day, and yes, it is EPROM programmable, so you can erase the ROM that's in there and program that again. All right, some 41464 DRAM here, so that would be used in the short board. Two of these chips is 64K. And then we just have a smattering of logic chips. Alrighty, we have some 1K by 4 SRAM. I think this is gonna be 214 chips. This is used in the 64 for like the color RAMs, used in the VIC-20. And yes, it's all 2114 SRAM. So very good, these are useful. The PET uses this for like the video memory. It's very ubiquitous when it comes to computers in the late 70s into the early 80s using this. I think even the TRS-80 Model I uses this RAM as well. I don't know if it's using for main memory, but it's maybe for video memory. I can't quite remember. And lastly, we have some DDR2 memory. I'm not gonna open this because that is not super retro, but look at all this, how cool. Thank you very much, Lawrence, for very carefully packaging this stuff up with this aluminum foil. I really appreciate it. You know, spares like this are very helpful for me. Unfortunately, people may have noticed over on the side of the bench here, there's like a big pile of chips because generous viewers are sending in chips like this, and I have to kind of sort through them, and I really, really need a good method of organizing my ICs. And I think it's just gonna be first typing them all into a spreadsheet, so at least I have a counting of what I have, because let me tell you, when I'm looking for a particular logic chip, I can look for 20 minutes for like the chip, because they're sort of spread around in various places in the basement, and I have to like look through all the ICs to find the one I need. So I really need to get organized, but it's kind of hard to do that because it's time consuming, and of course, I need to spend my time making videos, right? It's for people to watch. So yeah, anyway, so thank you very much again for sending this in. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Ken, for sending in the new keyboard cover so that my Model 2 keyboard is just a little bit less broken. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, you know, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and subscribe to the second channel. Really helps me out. Of course, put your comments down below if you care about that. And thanks to my patrons. Their names are scrolling up the side of the screen right here. If you want to become a patron, you can do so at the link in the description below. There's a merch channel. Don't forget to check out my main channel if you don't regularly watch that, although maybe you prefer the second channel. Who knows? And I guess that is going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.